In this installment, we're going to look at how to calculate how big the force of gravity perpendicular, the force of gravity parallel is. We've already seen that what happens is to the force of gravity perpendicular is that when we are at 0 degrees, the force of gravity is the force of gravity perpendicular. All of it is into this plane. And by the time we get to 90 degrees, none of gravity is pulling it into the wall. So it goes from a maximum at 0 degrees to 0 at 90 degrees. Now, this, of course, involves trigonometry. And if we were to use trigonometry to figure this out, there's our perpendicular line, and we would consider that the force of gravity perpendicular. And this is the force of gravity parallel, and this is our angle theta. This is our overall force of gravity. And you'll notice in this diagram that the force of gravity is the hypotenuse, so of course the component of it should be less. If we use mathematical notation, this would be the adjacent angle, opposite, and the hypotenuse. So since we're looking for perpendicular, and we usually will know gravity, we would express this in terms of perpendicular and gravity, or adjacent and hypotenuse, which is cosine. So we would start out by saying cosine of theta is the adjacent side, FG perpendicular, over the weight, the force of gravity, FG. So that the force of gravity perpendicular is Fg cosine theta. And Fg is mg cosine theta. Now you could try to memorize this, but the likelihood is about 50% that you'll get it incorrect and confuse it. You should be able to figure it out at any moment in time. So using the similar approach, if we look at the force of gravity parallel, if we consider it when it's 0 degrees, the force of gravity parallel is 0. It's a minimum at 0. And when we get to 90 degrees, it's a maximum. It's all of it. All of gravity is parallel to the inclined plane. Using the same labels we used above, if we want force of gravity parallel, that's the opposite side, and we know Fg, which is the hypotenuse, so that's sine. So we would say the sine of theta is Fg parallel all over Fg, and therefore Fg parallel is Fg sine theta. And the force of gravity is mg. So the force of gravity parallel is mg sine theta. And that's where those come from.